Aloha mai kākou from Kahilu Theater on the island of Hawaiʻi. You're listening to Hawai'i Radio Hour. I'm Mahealani DuPont, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Naka Nathaniel.
Aloha mai kākou. We're so glad that you're going to be hosting with me today.
Thanks. On today's show, we're going to hear from D.C. We sat down with Senator Brian Schatz here in Kahilu Theater to talk about federal impacts on Hawaiʻi.
We'll also hear ʻike kūpuna from a local paddling legend, Uncle Manny Vincent.
Our mele this week features the Mana Music Quartet from their performance at Kahilu this spring of Eddie Kamae's classic, Ku'u Morning Dew.
And we'll finish with a mo'olelo, a story from Kala'e Parish on writing a song that would help unite a people.
News, ʻike kūpuna, mele, mo'olelo, and more.
All in today's episode of the Hawai'i Radio Hour from Kahilu.
But first, the news.
Aloha from Nani Waimea. You're listening to the Hawai'i Radio Hour from Kahilu Theater. I'm Naka Nathaniel. I'm here with my co-host for today, Mahea DuPont.
We are so glad to have you listening to us today. We hope you're doing well this Sunday afternoon.
Mahea, I'm glad you're here filling in for Colby and Mileka. School has started, and so they are incredibly busy.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to let me help out. This is going to be my first time hosting the show, so bear with me if there's any hiccups along the way, but I think it's going to go smoothly.
I think it's going to go smoothly. But we're going to be visiting some of the territory that you've already been working on for the past couple months, especially about the changes in D.C. And so we have an interview in a little bit with Brian Schatz.
Mahalo for listening to the Hawai'i Radio Hour. We'll be back after this quick message.
The Hawai'i Radio Hour has been made possible with the incredibly generous kāko'o of the Richard Smart Fund.
The Richard Smart Fund supports healthcare, education, and charities in the Waimea area on Hawaiʻi Island.
To learn more, please visit hawaiicommunityfoundation.org. This week, we are continuing our segment on how decisions being made in D.C. are impacting Hawaiʻi. Up to this point, we've been talking to folks here on the ground, here on Hawaiʻi Island, who have been impacted.
But on Tuesday, we had the chance to speak directly to one of these decision makers from D.C.
That's right. We sat down with Senator Brian Schatz, Hawaii's senior senator, right here at Kahilu Theater. He was here in Waimea to conduct a town hall, and he sat down with us just beforehand. Aloha, Senator. Hawaiʻi Island in particular is making great progress on clean energy goals. And has this trajectory been changed for what we can expect here?
I think Hawaiʻi Island is still on track to meet its clean energy goals. I think the loss of the tax credits is going to raise the price of electricity across the country and across the state of Hawaii. So the bummer is that without those tax credits, the cost per kilowatt is going to be higher for all of us. So we'll try to reverse that. But in the meantime, it is still the case that clean energy is the most abundant energy on Hawaiʻi Island. So we're not going to sort of take our foot off the gas in terms of our long-term trajectory, but it's definitely going to hurt our pocketbooks.
Yeah, progress was being made on this island in particular, and those tax credits were really, really beneficial.
Those tax credits were essential for wind and solar. I think the good news is that there's still support for battery storage. And of course, a lot of our wind and solar projects, because we're an island state, depend on battery storage, which is up to 40% of the cost of any project. So those remain in place actually well into the 2030s. So there's a bit of a silver lining there.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we were looking around going like, ooh, what this is going to be.
It's going to be rough, but we'll get through it.
We focused a lot on federal funding for individual projects that have been cut. What's a reasonable outlook for folks that have had their NEH funding cut or their DOA cut?
It kind of depends on what's been frozen or cut. In some instances, these are just frozen for review. So for instance, in the Department of Transportation, a lot of projects are just frozen for review, and we've been able to, on the transportation side, get most of that money released. When it comes to individual not-for-profits, I think that's where the most pain is being felt, especially in the Native Hawaiian community and where people are working on climate issues. Those programs really are being cut by the head of the EPA and the Department of Interior. So those are really rough spots in our economy and in our community. Luckily, we've got a lot of not-for-profit support on Hawaii Island. We've got a lot of philanthropic support, and the state and county governments are trying to step into the breach. But the loss of federal funds in those spaces are going to be felt, and they're going to be painful.
Yeah, it's been difficult talking to these people that have received rescission letters that were so far along in their projects.
Well, and some of these folks have actually already spent money and then submitted for reimbursement with the federal government, and then the federal government said, well, we're not paying you back. And that is ridiculous. That is totally unfair. Look, I understand that when there's a new administration, there's going to be a new set of policies, but if the federal government executes a contract with a local not-for-profit organization, the federal government should stand behind that regardless of who's president. And so we're trying to make sure as much of those resources are getting released as possible, but it's going to be a rough couple of years.
Yeah. One of the things that we've been looking at the big, beautiful bill is it's expected that, inequality is going to be made worse here. What can be done to, make it easier for younger people who have not quite made it and are trying to make it? Yeah.
Well, a lot of people ask me, what can I do? And the answer I give them is take care of each other. Hawaii is a special place, and some of those values that we're seeing coming over, not just from the continent generally, but specifically from Washington, D.C., we have to guard against them. We have to understand left, right, or center. We kind of do it differently here. People might be conservative, but they don't want, masked agents to go and arrest people at a farm or a school or a hospital or a Home Depot. And so part of what we have to do is band together just as a community, setting politics aside. The other thing that I think is a space where the community can really step up is on food assistance and on Medicaid. There are going to be all these new requirements to sort of demonstrate that you're trying to find a job. But a lot of these requirements are actually designed to kick people off of the rolls. It's supposed to be hard to stay qualified for SNAP or for Medicaid. And that's an area where not-for-profit organizations, community organizations, friends and neighbors can help each other to stay eligible. And so we're working really hard on that. I was just on Oahu with Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center, and they're doing extraordinary work, which we're trying to scale across the state to make sure that nobody accidentally loses their eligibility for food assistance or for Medicaid.
Yeah, people that have been, able to buy, purchase large homes here that have been throwing the scale of what's possible for young people out of whack. Is there any solace for these people that are trying to make it?
I think that one of the things that we have not admitted to ourselves is that, of course, everybody understands the cost of living is killing folks and is making folks move away. But the biggest portion of anybody's monthly expenses is housing, whether you're a renter or you're trying to buy and you hold a mortgage. But we don't have enough housing. And it's not just the sort of federally qualified affordable housing that we don't have enough of, it's all housing. And every single island and the state government has created a thicket of rules and regulations that makes it almost impossible to build anything new. And we're about 70,000 units short in the state of Hawaii. And there's nothing kind or progressive or consistent with Hawaii's values about the fact that we are forcing nurses and firefighters and the elderly and students to leave the state of Hawaii or live with their parents or grandparents more than they feel comfortable doing. But we have a housing shortage. And yes, we can bring in federal money. Yes, the state and county government can spend a little bit more money on affordable housing, and they should. But the other problem is that the government itself is making it almost impossible to build anything. We've got to be able to make a distinction between places that are culturally or biologically sensitive and important and places where we should build. So whether it's Hilo Town or densification in the urban core in Honolulu or Lihue Town Center or wherever it is, where we decide there should be growth, people should be allowed to live here. Our kids and grandkids are not magically going to be able to afford a $1.4 million unit. And the reason the prices are going up and up and up is a shortage.
Yeah, that's one of the things we talked to Mayor Alameda about, is particularly the Section 8 housing and the disappearance of those vouchers that were helping a lot of these families. After the election, that headwind got a little bit stronger.
I think that's right, but I think locally there's a really interesting movement. Some members of the legislature, including Hawaii Island's own Chris Todd, who's now going to be in charge of the Money Committee in the State House, and Luke Evslin over on Kauai, young progressive legislators who both happen to be parents, kind of understand that this is not the same as the 70s, where the purpose of environmentalism was to prevent bad things from being built. It's still that, but it's also to enable good things to be built, right? And if we're going to be a 100% clean energy place, we're going to see it. If we're going to have a prosperous community with housing for everybody, we're going to see it. And so when we envision a sustainable and prosperous society, we have to imagine what must be built. Now, when it was the 70s and 80s, people wanted to preserve Hawaii by not allowing anything to be built. Right. But if we're going to preserve Hawaii, we have to preserve the opportunity for our young people to stay here, and that means housing.
Yeah. Mehea, did you have a question that you wanted to ask the Senator?
What are some policies that would reflect to young people here that you are aware of our lived experiences, including not just our problems, but the ongoing struggle to have our solutions be heard?
Yeah, I think my job is to take the struggles of young people across the state of Hawaii all the way to Washington. I think housing is a big pain point. I think the cost of electricity and groceries is a big pain point. I also think young people are increasingly contending with what does it mean to have a job in the context of AI. We now have a cohort coming out of college that has a higher percentage of unemployed individuals because the knowledge economy is evolving faster than the job market can. And so I don't have a quick solution because I think politicians are always tempted to provide a quick solution. But part of what I try to do is, especially when it comes to AI policy, and especially when it comes to housing policy, is when I'm home, do more listening than talking, because I have a lot of people in my ear up in Washington, good people, smart people, but nobody can convey what the lived experience is of a person on Hawaii Island without being a person on Hawaii Island. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Jillian, you had a question. You were talking earlier about, education.
Given your support for the Debt-Free College Act, what are the next steps you're taking to help make college more affordable for students in Hawaii?
Yeah, so I think the problem is that we have, for too long, just thrown Pell Grant subsidies at the cost of college. And the issue is that we would increase the Pell Grant amount by, say, $500 per year, and then the college would increase the price of college by exactly $500. And as you know, that federal money doesn't go to your bank account and then to the University of Hawaii system. It goes directly to the University of Hawaii system. So you don't see any net savings, but the University of Hawaii sees another $500. The Debt-Free College Act actually puts skin in the game on the state government side that says there will be more federal funding if there's more state funding. And universities have to be held accountable for decreasing the rate of inflation, because the kind of embarrassing truth is that the retail cost of college has a higher inflation rate than almost anything over the last 20 years, except for prescription drugs. So there's lots of talk about subsidies, and I'm all for those subsidies, but until we get the actual retail cost under control, then we're just throwing subsidy at it and they pocket it and you don't save any money.
Yeah, that's one of the difficult things that they're bumping into right now as recent college graduates, is everything is so out of whack from when we came out of school.
And the rate of inflation it's been 7.5%, which is totally unsustainable. And our solution has been, okay, here's more subsidy, but then if you're the CFO of the university, you go, cool, more money for us, but less money for you guys.
I want to talk about another community that's really been impacted, obviously, is the Native Hawaiian community.
We've been doing pretty well, even in this administration, in terms of saving federal funding for Native Hawaiian priorities, programs, projects. So the Department of Hawaiian Homelands got its full allocation from last year. Papa Ololokahi, the Native Hawaiian health systems, seems to be stable. Native Hawaiian education, likewise. So it's always a battle because there are people who, really target the Native Hawaiian community on the mainland to reduce funding. But I would say I worry about it every day, but we have not seen the bad news to the extent that we've seen it in other parts of the Hawaii community.
Mm-hmm. So we're just here on the other side of Pohaku law. Obviously, that's still a big thing with what's happening with the military leases. There was a totally different narrative that could have been written before the election. What do you think is the reasonable outlook for the military leases?
Look, Josh Green is in a very earnest discussion with all of the stakeholders, and he's got big shoulders, and his job is to represent not just state government but all of the Hawaii citizens as it relates to this. A couple of things that I think have to be sort of the price of admission to even have a negotiation. First, they have to get Red Hill right. And that's not a deal point or a concession. That's just like we're not even talking to you until you get Red Hill right. The second thing is that it can't be $1 a year or $1 for, it has to be fair market value. If there's a lease renegotiation, the state government and its people need to be treated fairly in that context. And then the third thing is more about how we do things. The Department of Defense needs to understand that it is a guest, and that it is not enough to say, national defense, or it is not enough to say, look how many billions of dollars we spend in the state of Hawaii. They need to understand that from a conduct standpoint, they are neighbors, they are guests. Now, as it relates to what concessions may be made, Josh is in the process of negotiating that. I think land conservation, I think cultural preservation are key. I'm also very, very interested in firefighting and disaster response, because to the extent that you have the United States military here, we should get the benefit of all of that, person power. And of course, there's an agreement with the county and PTA specifically for emergency response and firefighting. I'm hoping they will scale that across the state, because Hawaii Island is actually the only place that they do that. So Josh has got a lot of work to do. I'm just playing a supportive role, trying to make sure that the stakeholders are okay. But I think whatever agreement is arrived at, if they're able to get one, has to be sort of recalibrated with the understanding that the Department of Defense might be welcome here, but they have to behave as though they are guests.
Yeah. The big fear still, with this is that the lands are just going to be taken away and that the state of Hawaii is going to be left with nothing when it could have, possibly been the beneficiary of a boost.
I think that would be an enormous mistake on the part of the Department of Defense. I don't think that's the direction that they are going, but I think that if they were to take that tack, things would go very badly very quickly.
As citizens, we had a certain expectation for the role that our federal government was going to play in our lives. That seems to have been significantly altered in the last 8 months. What do you say to citizens that played the game one way and now it's been completely shifted?
Look, I think it's going to be a tough couple of years. But my advice is, I had a former colleague that used to say, be like the bamboo, bend but don't break. That's how we have to think about this. We will survive this. We're strong enough, we're resilient enough, we've got enough resources on our own, and we can take care of each other. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is a very difficult time for most Americans. But we have to sort of have the bones of democracy, the bones of our community still standing, so that when there's a change in government, we can all rebuild together.
Mahalo to Senator Schatz for his time.
We'll be right back after this short break. You're listening to the Hawai'i Radio Hour.
The Hawai'i Radio Hour is supported by the Abigail Kawananakoa Foundation.
The Abigail Kawananakoa Foundation is dedicated to preserving traditional Hawaiian culture while empowering Hawaiian people.
The foundation is the residual beneficiary of the Princess's Trust and is her lasting legacy and her ultimate gift to her people.
To learn more about the Abigail Kawananakoa Foundation, please visit kawananakoafoundation.org. Welcome Welcome back to Hawai'i Radio Hour. This week's ʻike kūpuna segment features a legend from Waimea, Uncle Manny Vincent.
Uncle Manny was born and raised in Keaukaha, and after graduating from Hilo High, he spent time away from home fighting in the Korean War as a Marine. He then moved to Honolulu and worked for Hawaiian Airlines, but something was always calling him home. This segment was originally on Hometown Legends, which was directed by our co-host, Colby Moser. We mahalo Colby and her team for letting us share this story.
I just loved the mountain. The mountain was my calling to come home. So like when I was young, I kept looking at that mountain, say, someday I'm going to go up there. But Mauna Kea was the reason I came home. You like the calling. Until today, I go up Mauna Kea now. I used to go up every about twice a week just to walk, to condition myself. I used to go up the mountain before they had a road. This was in the 50s, late 50s, they opened up sheep hunting. And we used to walk to Lake Weʻl from Halepuaku. The road ended there. It was only the trail, a Humula trail. You walk all the way up. Growing up in Keaukaha was my lesson in life, people. And the mountain was what said, you better come home. Until today, I say go up Mauna Kea. That's now. 60, 70 years later. I thought what I knew about Kauai, my grand-aunt had family down here, and she used to come over and visit. And this was back in the 50s and there. For me, when I got into the state, work for the state, he's come over, make surveys with the biologists, bird count, stuff like that. And that covered Paka Ranch and Kahua Ranch and all the ranches in North Kohala. That's when I started to come across here with the state. I met some of the Paka Ranch cowboys that guided us through Mahukona, the Kahua Ranch country. I got involved with some of the cowboys. I used to go diving for them, and they used to go shoot goat. I love to eat wild goat, and they love fish, and I could dive, so I should dive. Just go down to the beach, all jeep trail only, and I should dive for every Kala'e and stuff. So I got involved with that. But my first exposure to the Kauai area. Then when they first started to build this highway here, the engineer was David Kahilu. David's sons and I were very close. We were diving. We dive together. And when he was the engineer, they was just starting to build. There was no road here, the Honokoa Bridge. And I used to come down, just hang out during the day, go diving and whatnot. Then I met Mr. Akao. He jumped on a jeep with him. He used to drive me around the back country. That's how I got involved with Kauai. And Mr. Akao was the harbor master at that time. After he died, his son Bill took over as harbor master. Bill became the first kahu priest of the Kauai Canoe Flag. Bill and I became very, very close. And I spent a lot of time with our Akao family down at Kauai. And that was my exposure about, to Kauai, what he was. The fire captain at Waimea at the time was Charlie Rose. Charlie Rose and I were good friends from Hilo. Then we hang out at the police station. Then one day he approached me, told me, hey, the Hawaiian Civic Club in Waimea. Charlie Rose was with the Hawaiian Civic Club. Interested in forming a canoe club at Kauai for the population, the people of Waimea. They watched a canoe race between Prince David from Hilo and Kaipua Canoe Club in Kona. They went to a race in Kona, Kailua. They were so impressed with the young kids paddling canoes. There would be an outstanding program for Waimea, for the Hawaiian Civic Club, and he talked to Charlie Rose. So Charlie Rose said, well, the only guy he knows that knows anything about canoe paddling is me. And find out I was the only one exposed to canoe racing, outrigger canoe racing. North Kohala, South Kohala, Hamakua, nobody knew anything about canoes except me. So the Hawaiian Civic Club approached me, what I thought, well, nothing wrong with that, they can help in any way. They didn't know anything about canoes. I knew how to acquire canoes, I knew about paddles, I knew about everything about canoes. But they wanted it at one time just for the kids of the families of the Hawaiian Civic Club. I said, well, that's not going to work. But you got to open it up to everybody, and it's the way it's got to be. Otherwise, I cannot be involved with that. The physical part of the club I handled. I had all the contacts on Oahu. So tell them, go ahead. So that's how the canoe club started, the Hawaiian Civic Club. And the name of the club was supposed to have been the Hawaiian Civic Club. But being out of Kauai, and the club was named the Kauai Canoe Club, 1972. And it took off like a house on fire. And me, I had my learning, my training. I knew how to coach. I had no problem. I coached in Hilo before that, so Kamehameha Canoe Club. I coached a Kuhio Canoe Club in Hilo, Kilkaha. So I knew what to do. Those days was easy to coach. They listened, they paid attention. Everybody ate the same food, taught the same thoughts. They did everything the same, so it was easy. Now it's a little more complex. They learn about discipline. They learn about respect. When you come to paddling, you're nobody but a paddler. You're just a figure. You're not my friend. You're all the same. And I treat everybody the same way. Kids are all the same. They all know. I'm a good friend with your family and all that. Doesn't mean you I'm going to favor you. It doesn't mean that. It means I'm a good friend with your family. That's it. You train like everybody else. Adults, same thing. They all know I'm very square. I'm right by the book. Either you contribute or you don't. If you can't, well, you go someplace else. And that's how it is.
Mahalo nui Uncle Manny Vincent and all the crew at Hometown Legends for capturing his ʻike for all of us to hear.
The Hawai'i Radio Hour, and more importantly, the Hawai'i Storytellers Fellowship, is supported by Kamehameha Schools.
Kamehameha Schools has provided funding for the Hawai'i Storytellers Fellowship, a program that helps train, coach, and nurture Hawaii's next generation of trusted storytellers.
To learn more about Kamehameha Schools, please visit ksbe.edu. Welcome back to Kahilu. We are grateful that you're taking time to listen to us today.
If you're on the road right now, we appreciate you listening, especially if you're taking a drive on Old Mamalahoa Highway.
Here's a little music to accompany those beautiful twists and turns on that very scenic route.
The Mana Music Quartet was formed here in Hawaii during the pandemic.
4 classical musicians, a cellist, a violist, and 2 violinists created a chamber music ensemble. Now, chamber music is a small group of musicians that typically play in smaller spaces.
And since they're from Hawaii, the Mana Music Quartet has been performing songs that are special to the islands. It's remarkable to hear music we're used to hearing on ukuleles and slack guitars played on classical string instruments.
Right. Think about all those songs that we hear played on ukuleles. We don't often hear it in reverse, where our island classics are played on cellos or violins.
So today we're going to hear one of those true classics played on stage at Kahilu Theater by the Mana Music Quartet.
Here's violist Dwayne Padilla introducing his arrangement of Eddie Kamae's classic song, E Ku'u Morning Dew.
We're going to close the first half with a Hawaiian song that comes a little bit later in history, around the 1970s, 80s. Okay, and this one I would like to thank because it's a little bit indulges the reason why I started what started my interest in Hawaiian music as a violinist. And okay, the story is one day I got a call on the phone. One of my friends called me. Apparently there was a Hawaiian music who was in hospice. Only had a couple of days left, and she asked me if myself and my friend, a guitarist, would come and play some jazzy swing songs just to cheer him up. So my friend and I, we agreed, and we went over. It turns out that that musician was the iconic, legendary Eddie Kamae, who's the celebrated filmmaker and musician. And when we went in, Eddie was classic Eddie. He was wearing the red palaka shirt and baseball cap. And when I walked in and he saw me take out the fiddle, he goes, "Oh wow, you play fiddle. I used to play in an ukulele fiddle group with my my friend Sam Leah, who lives on the Big Island." And so it got me thinking, wow, mind potent that there's such a thing as ukulele and violin duos. And so that sort of started my journey into exploring Hawaiian music. And so I made this arrangement of his most favorite song, Iku'u Morning Dew. And this song also has a cute story behind it too. So his wife Myrna was interested in learning Olala Hawaiian. So he asked his friend Larry to come over, who was teaching at the university, Hawaiian language. And somewhere in the middle of dinner, Eddie disappeared into some back room. And right around dessert time, he came back and it's like, guys, I wrote this incredible melody. Larry, can you write some Hawaiian lyrics to this thing? And so that's the origin of this story, Iku'u Morning Dew. So it's a love song that Eddie wrote for Myrna. And we played this for Myrna and she just fell in love with the arrangement, so I feel it's the only string quartet arrangement of Iku'u Morning Dew. And we'd like to share it with you.
You heard Dwayne Padilla, the quartet's violist, introducing the song. He was joined by violinists Man Wen Lo and Eric Silberger and cellist Joshua Nakazawa.
If you'd like to watch the Mana Music Quartet's full performance, which included a beautiful lineup of Queen Liliuokalani's compositions, head over to kahilu.tv.
We will be right back with a mo'olelo from a Nā Hoku Hanohano Award winner, Kala'e Parish. The Hawai'i Radio Hour is grateful for the Stupski Foundation support of the Hawaii Storytellers Fellowship.
The Stupski Foundation is a private foundation returning its assets to the communities it calls home in Hawaii and the San Francisco Bay Area.
The Stupski Foundation supports just and resilient health, food, and higher education systems. The foundation partners with community leaders who are building a more equitable future for all, because change can't wait.
We will return in a moment. Aloha, welcome back to the show.
So here's today's last segment, a mo'olelo, a story from Kala'e Parish recorded previously in front of a live audience on stage here at Kahilu.
He recorded this story just before he nearly swept the 48th annual Nā Hoku Hanohano Awards in June. Here's Kala'e Parish.
Aloha mai kākou. Ahiki I ka hope loa e moana ku'u lahu ie. When I was about 10 years old, someone once told me that the best gift that you can give is one you make yourself. I'll be honest, I didn't even like the person who said it. But that advice stuck with me. At the time, I didn't know that idea would lay the foundation for some of the most meaningful songs I'd ever write. The first time I wrote a song that really hit me, where I thought, dang, I can write good songs. It was my first single as a solo artist with a song called Island Life. Wake into warm sunrise or the sunset on an evening drive. Sea breeze on an open coast, that's what I love the most. Rolling hills, beautiful skies, island life. But being a great songwriter isn't about writing one good song. It's about doing it again and again. A one-hit wonder doesn't make you great. So I kept writing, chasing songs that meant something, songs that felt bigger than me. And then in 2019, that song came. That was the year of one of the most powerful stands on Mauna Kea. I remember watching everything unfold on social media, but the moment that truly lit a fire in me was when the elderly, the kūpuna, at the forefront of the stand getting arrested. I felt so much sadness, so much anger. I couldn't sit still, pacing back and forth, wanting to be there. I needed to be there. I kept thinking, if one day my kids ask me, where was I when this happened? What will I say? I knew that I needed to be able to tell them that I went. I was there. You know, I've harvested and hunted on that mountain for years with my ohana. That mountain actually gave to me, helped me feed my family, inspire songs, and heal me. It was pulling at me so strongly, even if it was just to be present, not knowing that just showing up would eventually lead to a powerful song. So I booked a flight, landed, grabbed some pillows and blankets from Walmart, and headed up the mountain. I didn't even know how long I'd stay. I just knew I had to go. That next morning, brushing my teeth in the freezing cold, I saw the sun start to rise over the Mauna. And when I looked up, I saw a sea of people standing together and facing the sun. E alae, hundreds of voices and people in unison. It was one of the most powerful things I've ever witnessed. I'll never forget that feeling. Complete awe, silence, unity, strength. When I flew back to Oahu, that image wouldn't leave me. I can still see it in my memory today, so clear. That night, I had a dream. I saw that same moment, everyone greeting the sun, but this time, I could hear these lyrics and a melody. I could hear a voice. No one was singing in my dream, but I could hear them. I woke up and I grabbed my phone and I immediately started typing out what I heard. It took me a second to realize, but these words were coming from me. Felt as if this song was being given to me, but I questioned, what do I do with it? The next day I picked up my guitar and I started writing what would become the chorus of a song called We Are a Voice. And I kept the song to myself. I didn't tell anyone. A week later, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, was invited to contribute to a project called Kū a song that will become part of a 17-track compilation of original songs inspired by the stand for Mauna Kea. Without knowing I had written anything, she told the producers, save us a spot, we'll submit a track this week. 1 week to write, produce, and finish a song going on an album for one of the biggest moments in Native history of our time. So she came home, looked me dead in the eye, and said she was planning to write a song for Mauna Kea with her siblings. You know, I was just a little bit offended that she didn't include me. A little bit. A lot. So I told her, oh, that easy, right? Write a song for our sacred mountain. Yeah, right. It's something you got to feel and experience. You know, I was talking a little bit of smack. I was like, you know what, wait. Go take a shower, and when you come back, I'll have a song for you. She rolled her eyes, thinking, this lipa. When she came out, I sang her the first verse and chorus of We Are a Voice. And she cried. It wasn't until that point that I realized it could possibly be more. That's when I knew it wasn't just a song anymore, it was something bigger. I recorded the rough version on my phone and I flew out to California the next day. My wife sent the demo to her siblings, but told them she had written the song, just to make sure they would give it a chance. All without me knowing, so in short, she stole it. Me and her still laugh about it today. Moral of the story, be careful who you're sharing your bed with. From there, the song took on a life of its own. We had a close friend help translate the bridge to tie it all together. Ahiki iko hope loa, e moana ku'ulahuie. Until the very last of us, my people will endure. I still get chicken skin when I say those words like I am now. We brought in 12 teen choir students to sing on the bridge and final choruses, really symbolizing the unity power for the next generation. The song was selected as the 18th track on that album. Our musical gift to Mauna Kea, joining songs, relaying the emotions, and a timestamp in history. And years later, the song was translated, and that song was named Hawaiian Single of the Year at the 2024 Nahoku Hanohano Awards. But long before accolades, I knew that song was something different. It felt given. It didn't come from me. It came through me. We Are a Voice has been heard in many places across the world, New Zealand, Japan, and more. And not just sung by me or my wife, but it's been sung overseas by choirs and danced by some of the best hula dancers. You know, there's something incredible about a song when your heroes come up to you and say, that song, I love that song. Then I remember that young boy being told that the best gift you give someone is something you can make yourself. A seed that was planted years ago to create something meant for something bigger, more than yourself, bigger than a mountain even. That's the power of a song sometimes. And I've come to realize that the greatest gift you can give is also sometimes one you never expected to receive. And since my wife was blessed enough to steal this song from me, I'm going to ask her to come up and play it with me.
behind the sun, greeted by a people who stand in unison. From the highest slopes to the ocean side, praising our families on this land that provides. Where can you feel aloha around? It's standing beside you on this sacred ground. Clouds roll in while the waters fall, but there's too much to lose, so we'll answer the call. 'Cause there is a voice in you and I that travels the earth and reaches the sky. We will be heard until the last of us. We cannot lose this fight, 'cause we are a voice. We are the children who have come alive. We are a voice. We have been searching to find a better way. So many people showing love lead the way. If you take what's left, what else will be yours? There's only one earth and millions of stars. Oh, 'cause there is a voice in you and I that travels the earth and reaches the sky. We will be heard until the last of us. We cannot lose this fight, 'cause we are a voice. We are the children who have come alive. We are a voice. Ahiki ka hopeloa, e moana kula huie. Ahiki ka hopeloa, e moana kula huie. 'Cause there is a voice in you and I that travels the earth and reaches the sky. We will be heard until the last of us. We cannot lose this fight. Ileo no kaua, heleo kūpuna imo, lo hei ane, ileo hope, paioli kemo, heleo aloha, na pua i e olamo, i leo kako. E moana kula huie, ahiki ka hopeloa. E moana kula huie.
My name is Kala'e Parish, and I am from Waimea.
Mahalo to Kala'e for sharing his mo'olelo.
We are happy to announce that our next Storyteller show is September 11th at Kahilu Theater.
We're excited to share stories from our community.
For tickets for the September 11th show, please go to kahilu.org. Support for the ʻike kūpuna and mo'olelo portions of the Hawai'i Radio Hour comes from Kate Bell and Tom Blackburn of Deviants from the Norm.
Without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible.
We will return in a moment. be sure to follow us on social media at Hawaiʻi Radio Hour. Look for us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
There you can find videos of our interview with Senator Schatz, and on our YouTube channel you can find past videos of those that shared their stories on stage.
And if you'd like to re-listen to the show, or if you'd like to share the program with ohana or friends, you can also find us by searching for the Hawaiʻi Radio Hour on Spotify and other broadcast outlets.
Mahalo for listening. We want to mahalo everyone that made this show possible. Senator Schatz, the Mana Music Quartet, and Kala'e Parish for getting behind the microphone. Behind the scenes, we want to mahalo the team at Kahilu Theater. There are plenty of great events on the calendar this season at Kahilu, and you can find them at kahilu.org.
A special mahalo to our Hawaii Storytellers Fellows, Jillian Santiago, and to you, Meheolani DuPont. We also want to give a special mahalo and a special ahui ho to Tati Dunhauer as she embarks on her college journey.
E ho'o mai ka'i, Tati. And if you're away from the islands but don't want to miss out on these performances at Kahilu, you can find shows on Kahilu TV. You can stream the Mana Music Quartet's past performances at kahilu.tv.
We are also interested in hearing from you. You can send us an email or a voice memo to aloha@hawaiiradiohour.com. Again, that's aloha@hawaiiradiohour.com. Mehea, mahalo, mahalo, mahalo for doing such a great job. It's such a pleasure to host with you.
Thank you so much. Hope to do it again. Here on the show, we say e ho'olohe I ko kako moku. Listen to our island home.
Ahui ho and aloha.